And hello, everybody. Welcome to Well Women Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, February the 3rd, and I am so glad that you are joining us today. And perhaps you're watching this recording, and that is just fine. It is a pleasure that you're joining us every Wednesday from 12 to 12:30 Central Standard Time. My name is Dacia Moore. D is my nickname. I am a licensed professional counselor and also executive director of Gateway of Hope, the sponsor of Well Women Wednesday. And I want to just thank you all for coming. I'm about to share my screen so that we can begin the conversation that we're going to have today on February Well Women Wednesday. First, I do want to acknowledge that, as you know, February is Black History Month. And so every Wednesday at the beginning of our conversation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the contribution of an African American to mental health. So we're going to start with Bebe Moore Campbell. And Bebe was a American author, journalist, teacher, and mental health advocate who worked tirelessly to shed light on the mental health needs of the Black community and other underrepresented communities. She founded NAMI Inglewood in a predominantly Black neighborhood to create a space that was safe for Black people to talk about mental health concerns. Throughout her time as advocate, Campbell made her way to Washington, D.C. in 2008 and was formally recognized by Congress as a National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. She brought that to Congress to bring awareness to the unique struggles that underrepresented groups face regarding mental illness in the United States. So she is one reason why that we celebrate Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. That is later on in the year. But as we talk about Well Women Wednesday, we must acknowledge that every culture has a unique perspective on mental health. And as an African American woman, I know full well not only the stigma of mental health in communities of color, in the African American community, but I know the benefit of getting the help you need when you are struggling with a mental health issue. So I am so pleased to be sharing this with you today. And one of the things is that when a lot of research was done on mental health issues, it predominantly covered men, white men. Well, as women, we have much different perspectives and reactions to things than men do. So then they began to include women. Well, hallelujah. But what about women of color? So again, it's a wonderful thing that we have come this far. And Black History Month is an example, or it gives us the opportunity to hear how other cultures and races, especially African Americans, have contributed to so many things um, in America. So that is the Black History moment for today. I'm very happy that we're talking about the interaction between your mental health and your physical health. That is something that we don't talk about enough, but there is an absolute relationship. So we're going to get to that in a minute. For those of you who might be new to Well Women Wednesday, it's being sponsored by Gateway of Hope, which is a nonprofit women's counseling and life coaching center. And our mission is to lead women to discover hope, pursue healing, and live in wholeness through counseling, coaching, and support groups. Of course, we talk about mental wellness, mental wholeness, but that has a physical component to it as well. They cannot be divorced from one another. So I invite you to like us on our community. Here's our social media. I normally post on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And we have our first Lifeline to Hope coming up tonight, Finding Your Next Job. It's tonight at 7:30. You can go to our website, gwhope.org, for more details as well as how to register. But women have been adversely affected by this pandemic. We have lost our jobs. We've had a reduction in hour. We've had to shelter in place at home. I see some of you all are working from home today. That is quite an adjustment. We've had kiddos that we normally love to send to school that we have not been able to send to school. Who gets to deal with all of that? We do. Okay, we do. Now, I love men, don't get me wrong, but we just bear that burden of holding it down and making sure everybody else is okay. And oftentimes, we are not okay. So if you know of a woman whose job has been adversely affected by a reduction in her hours, or she's lost her job, please send her to our website, because that is the intention of Lifeline to Hope, is to help women who have been affected, negatively affected by the pandemic. Okay, ground rules. This is not counseling. This will be a discussion. If you get triggered by anything, call 911, call the suicide prevention hotline. If it's not that deep, but you still get triggered, get a life coach or counselor. Okay, we can help. We help. And this session is being recorded. So, some interesting facts. Now, let's get into our discussion. Some interesting facts about your mental health and your physical health. And women, of course, have mental health issues more frequently than men. Now, actually, the rate is about the same, but there are some disorders that we struggle with more than men do. Okay, we have our own flavor of mental health challenges, which are depression. Women are 2 times more likely to experience depression than men. Anxiety, women are 2 to 3 times more likely than men to have a higher level of anxiety. And okay, I'll say this in a minute. And PTSD affects women twice as often as men. Now, I had another Zoom call this morning that talked about the tsunami of mental health issues that we can expect after the pandemic. And guess who is going to be disproportionately represented? Women. Okay. Now, this study was done in May. Okay. Could everybody be sure to mute your phone, because I'm hearing some ambient noise. This was done in May. And in May, as compared to a year earlier, 2019, women experienced, or US adults showed anxiety or depression disorder symptoms 3 times more than the year before. This is overall, not just women. This is women and men. So everybody was struggling. But you can be sure that when the pandemic is behind us and studies are done, how likely it will be, or it will be likely that women will skyrocket in terms of depression, anxiety, and those other kinds of things. And it shows up. It shows up in our physical health. And a lot of times we don't recognize that upset stomach, that migraine headache, that tension in our body, that sleeplessness, that we are struggling to fall asleep, that exhaustion or tiredness has to do with our mental health. Mm-hmm. Depression can precipitate or exacerbate an already existing condition, and can increase the risk of developing cancer, heart disease, and high-risk behaviors that can be life-threatening. Had a talk with a young woman earlier this week. She says, Dacia, about 2 weeks ago, I was at Longview Lake. Now that's a lake in our area. I went to the marina and I put the front wheels of my car tires in the water. what? I was thinking about driving in to Longview Lake and just saying, forget it. I'm so glad she didn't. She backed away, but that is life-threatening. And she had all of the symptoms of she has all the symptoms of major depression. And she has migraine headaches, and she struggles with fibromyalgia and several other physical issues. And sometimes we get tired. We don't feel like anybody is helping us, and we just get tired. It's not that we want to die. You just want the pain to stop. You just want to feel better. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. That's when a woman loses hope. Okay. So part of this Well Women Wednesday is to give you hope to give to other people. So that hope that is within you overflows to others. But you have to be okay. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about today in our time in just a few minutes is how does, you don't have to say that you're struggling with this or that, but I want you to pay attention and share, how does it show up in your body? What can you start paying attention to going on in your body where you recognize, hey, I better make some changes, or I need to pay attention. I need to slow down and pay attention. Okay. But it works both ways. If you have a chronic medical condition, that increases the likelihood of a mental health condition. So people who struggle with or deal with diabetes, asthma, cancer, heart disease, have higher rates of depression than the baseline population, the normal population. I'll put that in air quotes because all of us are struggling with something. I have a friend who is in and out of the hospital with cancer as well as some other health issues. And how can you not be mentally affected by that? Okay. So part of our conversation today, and I want you to just I'm going to open this up and I want you to share, but it's important for you to recognize how your body responds to stress, overwhelm, distress, so that you can be more proactive. Last month, in January of 2021, we talked about setting our intention. And as we set our intention to where we want to go in 2021, we need to look at obstacles and threats so that we can decide ahead of time how we're going to approach those things. So that's part of why we're talking this month about the intersection, the overlap between your mental health and our physical health and our well-being, so that we can be intentional about being healthier now. And when we get into a situation where we are distressed, we can be intentional about how to come against it so that when we overcome it, we can be healthier on the other side. So I am just really interested in hearing from you. We're doing good on time to see if you recognize physical symptoms in your body that might be indicators that you also are struggling with some stress, some overwhelm. Okay. So does anybody want to share?
Go first, because literally had this kind of slap me in the face last week. It was very bizarre. Been divorced twice, but my second husband was emotionally and mentally abusive. Kind of walked away from that situation and, knew I had some PTSD, knew I had some things. And I was watching a show last week and saw a guy that looked like him. And all of those feelings kind of started manifesting in my body. And I had a nightmare about him. I got up the next morning and I was like, okay, obviously have some PTSD that I have not dealt with. And you were talking about intentions for 2021. And my intention literally is, this is sad because it's what happens to me, but I carry my stress all right here. And so I will find myself pulling my shoulders into my ears. My husband's like, would you please quit wearing your shoulders as earrings? It's not attractive. He's like, you're killing yourself. And so I was like, well, that, out went that intention when I started feeling all of that. And man, I just really had to start thought processing, talking about it, putting it out there into existence so that I can start to feel that weight become a little bit more lifted.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's good. That's good that you recognize it. So now when you walk past a mirror, you can look and see, oh, and start to roll those shoulders instead of.
And the sad thing is, for years and years, I taught dance before I transitioned, and I'm talking about putting my curriculum into existence one way or the other, video or book. And so I've started reminding myself, if you're going to do this, you got to loosen up again. So I've really started paying attention to my spine, and it's painful though. Mm-hmm. Once you get past, you're like, oh,
it's a habit.
It's a habit. It's a full-blown habit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's familial. My cousin does the same thing. And her chiropractor told her, he's like, you got issues. And she's like, I realize that.
Well, we all have issues, so.
Oh yeah, and she's a counselor too. So
yeah.
I'll share. For me, when stress and anxiety shows up, I seem to lose my focus and my clarity. Things that I know I have a focus and a clear vision on. You start just getting all these things in your mind that you need to do here, and do that. And I have to really make sure that I have to make a list of things that I have to get done. It helps me to stay on task, because when my stress level is up, then it's hard for me to focus and follow and get things done. It start affecting my blood pressure. You get those butterflies in your stomach, and just not able to just relax and sleep. I mean, you sleep, but there's a difference between sleep and resting.
Yeah.
I find that I don't rest as much.
That's good for you to know that about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it helps to come to Well Woman Wednesday and be around supported groups. And I mean, you have to constantly feed your mind, feed your brain good stuff. Mm-hmm. Because if not, it will take a toll even on the best of us.
Yeah.
And I know we dress up and we look pretty on the outside, but we can be all torn up on the inside. Mm-hmm. And nobody really knows unless you say something.
Yeah.
So Thalisa, you made me think of a situation that happened to me a couple of years ago. I had an issue with one of my knees, and like every step was painful, like every step. And, I went to a doctor, and basically he said something really profound from a life standpoint to me. He said, when you start making decisions based on energy, like it's just too much work. As I was like, it's just too much work to the story I told him is I pulled him to go to the grocery store, and it was just too much work to go from my car to go into the grocery store. My knee just hurt so badly. And that has stuck with me, where I am now self-aware, which I was not before. And I know that I did it many times before all of this, But I'm now self-aware that when I say to myself, that's just too much work, or I don't have the energy, I need to pay attention to that, because that is more than just me being lazy. That's something's going on in my body, or something's going on in my life that is weighing heavily on me. And I need to at least acknowledge what it is. And sometimes it's small, but most of the time it's big enough that it's become a distraction. And I'm making decisions based on it's just too much energy, because I'm giving up my energy to something else that's less important, but distracting.
That's huge. So one of the things that when signs of burnout is when you don't do things that you've done in the past that you loved because it takes too much energy. Things like sex, right? Ugh, is it worth the energy to have sex? So anyway, that's huge. The brain fog that Felisa talked about, same thing. That you just can't focus on anything because it takes a lot of energy to focus, right? So we just don't, and that's that fog. The other thing physically for me is intestinal stuff. Like I'll notice that things just get caught up down in there. I'm not drinking enough water, right? All that stuff that we know is good for us, and we're just like, yeah, but coffee. Energy comes from coffee, sweetness comes from coffee, but then we don't drink our water. So that's some of the things I notice for me when I'm stressed is what makes me feel good right now? Chocolate, coffee, right?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
If we could just get water to taste like chocolate, I would be golden.
Yes.
We have time for one more comment before I give you your homework for the week and we reconvene next week. Anybody else want to share? Okay, well, let me get back to my screen share. Here we go. And definitely want to, we will be continuing the conversation about how to be healthier in 2021 and how to, it's good. It sounds like most of us are aware of the physical symptoms. The next question is, what can we do? And that's what I want you, that's going to be your homework for next week. So we're going to get together next Wednesday, February the 10th, same time, same link, same Zoom link. So just, put that in I have a meetings folder that I put all my Zoom links in, so I don't have to scroll through my emails to find the different meetings. That's if I save it. So I have to save it or copy it into my folder. But I invite you to do that so that you can join us next week. But what I want you to think about, anytime you're thinking about trying to get better, the first step is, okay, what am I doing now that works? What am I doing now that works? So I want you to journal about that. Hopefully you're journaling. One indicator that I have that I'm not doing well is when I stop journaling. Because I don't want to think about it. It's too hard, it's too painful. I just want to keep going. I just want to power through. And that is a recent learning about myself. I didn't know that I was avoiding, but yeah. So anyway, journaling with your intentions, your I will statements, your I am statements, that we've talked about that last month. And then paying attention to what you are doing that works well. When I get stressed, it's good for me to look in the mirror and roll my shoulders. When I get stressed or overwhelmed, it's good for me to slow down and just make a list. So write down the things that work for you. Because you know what will happen is, in the midst of the storm, when it comes, you can go back in your journal and say, okay, those are the things that work for me. Because sometimes when we're in the midst of the storm, we forget We forget what our go-to is. We forget what is helpful to us. And we go with what feels good. Okay. And sometimes what feels good is not healthy, and it's not good for us in the long run. So we have to really make ourselves go back. Okay, this is what works. This is what I need to start doing. Let me reinvigorate that. Let me get back on the horse. Okay. There's a saying that I saw and I love it. Get started, keep going. Get started, keep going. And what that means to me is when I fall off, when I stop, get started and keep going. Don't feel guilty about what you haven't done, what you should have done, what you didn't do. Okay, this is the 50th time you've started this. No, get started, keep going, because we want to string together those days where you get started and keep going. And pretty soon that will become a habit as opposed to stopping because things are too hard. So that is it for our Well Women Wednesday talk today. Thank you for attending. We are definitely going to be talking about our physical health, noticing what is going on in our bodies, becoming more aware so that we can counteract and intentionally move forward and have healthy minds, healthy bodies, healthy relationships. And that is what we're going to do every Wednesday from now until, I don't know, end of the year, end of the month. We're going to keep it going. All right. Have a great day, everybody. God bless. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.